with these mics. Yep, hold down the button, turn it on. And these ones you have to do kind of hold a little close to your face, 3 or 4 inches away.
I'll just take it off and hold it here, so I'm not.
What's that?
See, I'll just take it off and lay it here at my place.
Yeah, I
just
like
turn it off. I'll do it like that. Boy, I could do it. Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Rockingham County School Board to order. Prior to moving to our approval of the agenda, the superintendent has an announcement with regards to item B.
So on the printed agendas that you see, if you picked one up at the door, you see item B, approving the electronic participation request. That's only on the agenda in case Mr. Cross was able to join us remotely. He is not going to do so tonight, so we're moving on to approval of the agenda without that item on it.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. Do I hear a motion for approval of the agenda excluding item B under opening? Thank you, Mr. Falk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is 4-0. Thank you all very much. At this point, I would ask all of those who are able to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Now I would like to invite everyone to join us in a moment of silence. Thank you all. Boy, that's beautiful. I need to start doing that some during my work day. Just silence is golden. Next, we will move on to recognitions and presentations with the school presentation. Ms. Woodrum.
Chair Breeden, School Board, and Dr. Scheichel, welcome back to Rockingham Academy. It's been a while. It's good to see you guys. Because our program is unique and school isn't in session yet, we will present our character counts winners later in the school year. But I want to take a few minutes to highlight a little bit about who we are and what we do. Mr. Falk, beside you is a set of yearbooks. Could you make sure everyone has one? This is not a gift, they belong to my teachers, but you're welcome to look through those while I'm talking. And the reason that I want you to is because this is the second yearbook that Rockingham Academy has ever done. and I want to boast a little bit about it. Several students have told us that ours is the first yearbook they've ever owned. Thanks to our high school English teacher, Renee Evans, for turning the idea into reality, and a wonderful and generous staff, all of our students have been provided with yearbooks for the last 2 years at no charge to them. So I think it's not your typical yearbook, but it really highlights some unique and wonderful things about our students. In 2022, we had 15 graduates from the 4 high schools. We gave out 289 credits, and recently our ISAEP GED program was featured in the Daily News Record. Nancy Hill does a fantastic job with our high school GED students. Rockingham Academy serves students in grades 7 through 12 who come to us for a variety of reasons. Students who want to graduate early, students who struggle to fit in or excel in the traditional classroom setting, reluctant learners, students who are parents, students who work or attend MTC and benefit from an alternate schedule, students who otherwise could not be successful in the regular school and benefit from a smaller class size, students who qualify for the high school GED program, and there are students who are discipline placed, though that's not the largest percentage of our student placement. Our middle school program, grades 7 and 8, is very small by design and has been revamped this year to meet not just the academic needs of our students, but to teach social skills, social emotional learning, life skills, and the goal is that all 8th graders will go on to their high school to try being in a regular high school setting. Dr. Scheichel once said that if students can't learn the way we teach, we're going to teach the way they learn. And that accurately sums up the work that we do for our students through various learning modalities, including our online learning platform, Edgenuity, one-on-one individualized instruction when needed, and in a few cases, paper packets. Our students have the benefit of a highly qualified, compassionate staff that includes teachers, behavior support assistants, counselors, our amazing custodian. I don't know if you've looked around the school, but we have one custodian, and she takes care of this entire building. Our nurse, our secretaries, and our very heart-centered school resource officer who is here tonight. Author and former Prince William County Principal Hamish Brewer said that our students are an opportunity, not an obligation. Thank you for giving RA opportunities and support, and the support it requires to help our students succeed. Do you guys have any questions or comments? Thank you.
I didn't grab my microphone fast enough, I'm sorry. This is amazing. Thank you so much for doing this and all the work you all do. And I saw the one page that really struck me is that we love to eat. And Mr. Rhodes knows that I can flip burgers, so if you need me to come flip burgers one day, call me. But thank you for all the work you do.
We do a lot of food around here.
Thank you very much. I was kind of getting lost in reading some of the comments from the faculty. One that particularly caught my mind is when a thing disturbs the peace of your heart, give it up. And that's something to ponder there. Okay, next we will move to item 3 on our agenda, which is public comments, and we had no one to sign up for public comments. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board this evening? Sir, if you would state your name, and as always, there would be a 3-minute timer up. I will gavel at 30 seconds so that you don't have to be concentrating on the clock. And okay, thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes, sir. Is that better?
They can hear you on the internet.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to make a public comment. My name is Jeff Bolender. I'm a Rockingham County Rockingham County student parent Moved to the county about 20 years ago when I retired from the Marine Corps, and I live in the 5th Electoral District. I want to talk about cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is bullying that takes place over digital devices like cell phones, computers, and tablets. Cyberbullying can occur through text, apps, online social media, forums, or gaming, where people can view, participate in, or share accounts, share content. Cyberbullying includes sending, posting, or sharing negative, harmful, false, or mean content about somebody else. For parents, we normally associate this form of behavior with immature students. Regrettably, however, we recently have become aware of this behavior being associated with a sitting Rockingham County School Board member. During the public comment period of our last school board meeting, the parent of a Rockingham County student brought to your attention an instance where a school board member deliberately insulted that parent. Profanity was used in the social media post directed at that parent during discussion of the school board related matter. Since that meeting, the same school board member has continued this pattern of behavior by intentionally insulting the parents of several Rockingham County public school students. Every member of this board is capable of stopping cyberbullying. They may not have a legal means of doing so, but they need to have the moral courage to face the school board member and publicly or privately tell him that insulting parents on social media or any other form is not acceptable and needs to stop. Thank you for the opportunity to make a statement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. We will move to highlights by board members, and I will begin to my left with Ms. Lohr.
Thank you, Mr. Breeden. As I alluded to a little bit ago, I spent some time at the Rockingham County Fair the past week. Definitely a highlight to see all of our students succeed. And even if they can't have an animal to show, there's opportunities for junior high. That's what I did. I made pillows when I was a kid. There's opportunities for baking, growing vegetables, all sorts of wonderful opportunities for our students. And then it's also a great opportunity to raise funds to support those students. So I hope everybody had a chance to go out and support or work in or do something with a food booth. If you didn't, no worries. I flipped a lot of burgers and ate a whole lot of chicken and funnel cakes for all of us. But I just hope everybody had a chance to enjoy the fair, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Dr. McQuilkin?
Thank you, Mr. Breeden. I'd like to begin by thanking Dawn and her staff for the wonderful meal that you provided for us this evening. We really enjoyed it, and we are thankful that you have us here this evening. This feels like old home week because there for a while we were here for several meetings consecutively. So yes, thank you. We're glad to be back, and thank you for your efforts. I have 3 highlights this evening. On August the 12th, Friday, there was a new teacher orientation, and the school board members were invited to meet and greet the new teachers, and it was a pleasure to be there. We have a lot of happy, shining faces, and I'm grateful for the HR staff for all the work they did to make sure that we had all those happy, shining faces at the meeting. It was great. On August the 15th, which is a Monday, in the newspaper, John C. Myers, the highlight was their amazing race. They did wonderful things for the community. The teachers went out and gave gifts to various people in the community as a way to say thank you. And I thought that was a nice idea. So I'm calling everybody's attention to it again. And lastly, on Wednesday, August 17th, there was the first ever paraprofessional in-service that we have held, and I attended that luncheon and and I believe I talked and saw just about every paraprofessional that was present, and it was wonderful to see how they enjoyed being there. And I believe there was a survey that was taken, and I understand that in the survey, the paraprofessionals expressed their appreciation for the in-service. So that's a wonderful way to begin our school year. And my last item is I'm wishing everybody in the school division a wonderful, enjoyable, productive 2022-23 school year.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Mr. Falk?
Well, I'd like to say that it's really good to be here at Rockingham Academy. This is a project we worked on and worked for a long time, and it's looking good, and the program sounds really good, and it's good to see kids being successful. And throughout the community, I've heard a lot of eager anticipation for the school year to get going. So I see a lot of people looking forward to it, and things are looking good for a good kickoff.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Dr. Scheichel?
I had a number of these written down that have already been covered, so I'm not going to repeat those. It was, as always, fun to do the lemonade stand at the fair, so that was a highlight for sure. Paraprofessional training, again, the team that put that together, it was an amazing event, and we heard a lot of good things about this. In terms of new teacher orientation, what was really impressive to me was how many of the teachers at the new teacher orientation aren't new to the profession. So when I asked people to raise their hand, you know, depending on whether they were brand new teachers or teachers who came here from other school divisions, more than half the people there probably raised their hand that they came from elsewhere. And so that's a great sign for us. Again, where every school district is dealing with staffing shortages, and here we still see many teachers who want to come here, and they will say that when they move to the Valley, they ask, you know, where should I apply for a teaching job? And Rockingham is always, you know, one of the school districts, and the school district that is mentioned as a great destination. And still, you know, hiring is tremendously difficult, but as of today, we talked, you know, at the last board meeting, having 4.5 teaching positions open. So as of today, there's 1 part-time teaching position open at MTC, but all the other classrooms are going to be covered. And so Michelle Judd and her staff have just done an amazing job from the spring on, and working incredibly hard and long hours all summer. So thank you, you know, for all the work, and of course to our principals and directors and supervisors who sat in on those interviews. And then, of course, it's not school until the kids are here, so I'm looking forward to Monday, starting the day at one of the high schools, and then visiting other schools. It's going to be a fantastic school year. When we talk to teachers, you know, what we hear a lot is this year feels, again, like it's going to be a good school year. This is what we, you know, always looked forward to, and of course the last few years, because of the pandemic, have been difficult for everyone. And so looking forward to the school year, to the buses picking up the kids in the morning all the way through the school day, and then dropping them off at home again. And yeah, and then I'm looking forward to tonight's presentation on the lab school. That's a long-standing idea that this board has tossed around in terms of how we can do education differently, and I think it speaks to what Don Woodrum said, you know, that this is a different environment and it works better for the students, and overall we find that classes where students can apply their learning, and you know, we see all the success in our co-curricular activities, but we want to see that across the board, and so this is going to be a huge opportunity. And Dawn and Don here, thanks for hosting us, and thanks for making this environment be so special. Thanks to everyone who works in the building, Corporal Good, and again, the custodians. It's an amazing building. You walk into our schools and they look like brand new buildings every time we walk in August. So everyone takes pride in their work, and that's good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. I, too, would like to thank the staff here for hosting us this evening, and for everyone who's been able to come out. To the speaker, I don't know that I caught your last name, so if you make sure that the clerk has that so that it can be reflected in the minutes. And I would invite you, if you have time, I realize the meetings kind of get late sometimes, but if you'd like to hang around for a minute or two, I'd enjoy a minute or two of conversation with you. All right. Next, we will move into action items. We have need for approval of the minutes from our previous meeting, and if it be your desire, I will entertain a motion for approval of those minutes that you have in your packets.
I move we approve the minutes from August 8th as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that would be 4-0. Field trips, Dr. Scheichel.
I have a number of field trips for your approval tonight. East Rockingham High School, FFA, All-American Dairy Show Judging Contest, September 17 through 19. 4 students to the Pennsylvania Farm Show Complex and Expo Center in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And then the Science of the Chesapeake Bay, September 20th through the 22nd. 24 students to Port Isabel Island, Tangier Island, Virginia. And then from Wilbur Pence Middle School, FFA, the Big E, September 15 to 18, 3 students to Springfield, Massachusetts, and the FFA National Convention, October 26th through the 29th, 8 students to Indianapolis, Indiana, and I recommend approval of those field trips.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel, for the report and the recommendation, and I will move to accept that recommendation. Do I hear a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That also is 4-0. School board meeting schedule for 2023.
You received a meeting schedule for 2023 for information at the last board meeting, and so this meeting schedule is now for approval. Dawn, you can, if the board votes on this and approves it, August 28th next year, put it on your calendar. I recommend approval of the school board meeting schedule for 2023 as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Scheichel. You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion in that regard? Thank you, Mr. Falk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Fashion Marketing Textbook Committee, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Good evening. Before I start with the textbook committee, I've got to tell you something. Today was a good day. We've been doing our in-service, back-to-school in-services for teachers, and today we did our CTE in-service at Frieden's Farm and had a wonderful time. But I've got to tell you this. I asked the teachers several days ago to send me a one-line sentence about why they got into teaching and what they wanted to do this year to make the reason they got into teaching happen. And I'm going to tell you what, I have not been as uplifted for quite a while as I was when I read through those comments. In fact, I'll send them to you if it's okay. But, you know, I just thought as I looked at those how fortunate we are in Rockingham County, and it kind of echoes what Dr. Scheichel said, to have outstanding teachers. And one reason we have those outstanding teachers is because of an outstanding board. And I'm not trying to get in good with the board or anything like that, but I want you to know that we appreciate what you do. And the teachers appreciate it, and we are just very fortunate with public education in Rockingham County. Speaking of that, tonight, Chair Breeden, school board members, and Dr. Scheichel, as you remember at the last meeting, I presented a list of proposed members for the Fashion Marketing Textbook Committee. That proposed list will be hopefully reviewing a book very soon to replace a book that was dated 2006 in that program. Tonight I ask for your approval of that committee so that we can proceed in selection of a textbook for fashion marketing. Do you have any questions?
I recommend approval of the Fashion Marketing Textbook Committee as presented.
I move that we follow the superintendent's recommendation to approve the list of committee members to review the new textbook, 1 or 2 textbooks?
It'd be one
One.
textbook, yeah. We have several in
fa-
mind we want to look at.
Okay, for fashion marketing.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. Now that I have my mic turned back on, do I hear a second? Thank you, Mr. Falk. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the textbook committee, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is 4-0. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Fitzgerald. Moving to information items, we will begin with the Partnership School for Innovation and Career Exploration. Dr. Schiffler.
Good evening, Chair Breeden, members of the board, Dr. Scheichel. If you will recall, in December of 2021, we had a presentation about a potential lab school partnership between Harrisonburg City Public Schools, JMU, and Rockingham County. And unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition. However, as Oscar mentioned earlier, this has always been on our thoughts, our minds, about creating an innovative classroom space that would serve as a model for our division. And so I'd like to talk about a new lab school that we're in the process of planning for opening in the fall of 2023. And it is, again, a partnership with James Madison University. I have with me Brian Zugelder, Associate Dean from the College of Ed at JMU. Rockingham County and also Blue Ridge Community College has kind of joined us in this initiative. And I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about where we see this in just sort of the early stages of what this may look like. The vision is for this school to become an innovation hub for career exploration and workforce development through interdisciplinary problem-focused application of solving community needs. So that's what that classroom space will sort of look like. And let me kind of break down some of the pieces. So we talk about a continuum of professional learning from our high school students to undergraduate students from BRCC, from JMU being involved with this, graduate students, and the professionals that we hire in Rockingham County. And we see this as an innovation hub in terms of the infrastructure, the technology, flexible spacing, research, and how we will approach our pedagogy. This will be a life-changing investments in our students. Looking for transformational school environment. Again, we mentioned this idea of project-based, problem-solving, giving students some voice and choice, holistic teaching and learning, career exploration, and also looping, thinking about teachers who will work with students in their freshman year and then follow them into their sophomore year. The curriculum will be interdisciplinary, meaning there will be an integration of 2 or more disciplines, and I'll talk about maybe what some of that could potentially look like. Centered around experience, complex, deep, integrative thinking, authentic learning, again, project-based, highly innovative. And when we talked about the previous partnership school, there was really a focus on civic engagement. But we feel like for freshmen coming into high school, they may not have a clear definition of where they want to go, a career path. And so we wanted to build in some career exploration so that students could experience through these projects different career paths that they may select and choose. And this could be a part of that journey. So not just focused on civic engagement, but it could be STEM careers, aviation mechanic, classroom teacher, nurse, what have you. We want to try to build in some of those opportunities for students to gain some experience of what path they may want to take. And in a moment, I'll talk to you about what some of those paths could be. An example of some potential courses. So for currently, students in their freshman year take English 9, World Geography, Environmental Studies, and then some math course. So we would think about maybe combining those 3 courses into a subject that we would call maybe our world or our earth or the planet, whatever, and put all of those disciplines into one, and then base our curriculum on that content, but then expose students through it by offering different problems for them to solve and different projects for them to work on. Integrated math, and then again, another example could be in 10th grade when students take biology, you could combine English 10, biology, and some of the health standards into something about all living things and trying to make it very applicable. Now, these are just examples, so I'm just trying to help you think about what this may look like when we talk about this integration. And this partnership, again, with JMU, the College of Health and Behavioral Studies, the College of Education, Blue Ridge Community College, looking even to find some local businesses who may want to partner with in portions of this. some community organizations, and as well government organizations. The student population would be representative of each of the schools, and the plan would be in 23-24 to begin at East Rockingham High School and Broadway High School. And we would start with just the freshman class, somewhere between 25 and 50 students at each of those high schools. And the following year, then we would add, those ninth graders would go to 10th grade at East Rock and Broadway, and then we'd add another freshman class, and then we'd also bring Spotswood and Turner Ashby, bring them on board. And so it would continue to grow. And then when it gets to that third year, students will have some options of what it could look like. So total enrollment for students who are impacted by this could be somewhere between 400, 550 students, depending on the choices they would want to make after their sophomore year. And I want to share what some of those could be. Students could just select to stay at their high school, East Rock, Broadway, whatever, and just say, I'm going to finish out my junior and senior year and do what's maybe more normal high school. They could also come to MTC as part of that experience. They could pursue an associate's degree at Blue Ridge Community College and do some classes concurrently, or even do some dual enrollment at JMU. So we're hoping to create some pathways as the students have had some experiences in 9th and 10th grade. Where do you see yourself? What career are you wanting to explore? And then here's some options for you, and making that a possibility for those students. We also want to consider, as we did previously, this idea of integrated care. So aligning with adverse childhood experiences for some students who are impacted, or those kids who are maybe impacted by trauma. Social emotional learning can be embedded, as well as whole health learning for our students, right? We want to teach the whole child. The staff would be a director employed through JMU, an administrative assistant, and then we would have some lead teachers, potentially some industry experts, pre-service professionals, maybe some JMU students, again, Blue Ridge Community College students, and paraprofessionals. And another piece of this lab school is also taking a look at the workforce design model. So currently, sort of the mindset is we have 25 students and one teacher in a classroom. But now we want to think about maybe a group of students, maybe 50 students, and maybe there's one teacher, maybe an industry expert that's helping, maybe some parapros. What does it look like to think about the teaching workforce, the workforce redesign differently? And some of our colleagues last spring, Dr. Aldifer, Mrs. Abernathy, and Mr. Kapuchuk, they visited in Arizona and spent some time at Arizona State University talking about the workforce redesign model. And so we want to think about that and at least have some conversations about how that could potentially look in this process. We would want to offer some stipends, obviously professional development, curriculum development, and everything around interdisciplinary and collaborative planning. Governance, as we get into it, obviously these schools will be within Rockingham County, but also getting feedback and representatives from JMU, the President's Office, the Board of Visitors, some stakeholders from the JMU community, as well as superintendent, our board members, and then Rockingham County stakeholders, as well as folks from BRCC. And the good thing about this is a project that the startup budget has been proposed and as part of Governor Youngkin's budget to have lab schools across the Commonwealth. And I think there's up to maybe $100 million that's available for 20 locations to get up to $5 million of what you would say startup funds. So some money we can get our hands on to help us begin the project. And so we've had conversations early on talking about, what does this look like? Not really wanting to spend that startup money on personnel per se, buying extra positions, because the money will eventually go away, right? And we have to build something that we can sustain with our own budget. And so we've talked about offering, some stipends or, incentives for teachers who do some of this extra work in the summer, maybe some graduate assistants. JMU Blue Ridge have talked about faculty reassignments. So maybe part of their workload would be teach a block every other day at the lab school. Also, technology, laboratory design, facility renovations. We need to kind of think of what this space is going to be used for and how we're going to use it. And then can use some of these dollars to help us do those things. And then support for our teachers. And then even money for us to do some exploration and travel this fall and spring to see what other school divisions are doing. I know I have visited several schools that have sort of a school within a school model, and it's good to see what those things, how they work, how they function, and learn from that. So the application has not yet been released, and I think we're kind of expecting that to be maybe any day now, with probably 30 days to turn around on that. And then we'll have to wait and see whether or not we're approved. But if we are, then that would give us, the go-ahead. We still need to do some some more planning. Up to this point, here with this lab school, some folks who have been involved is Donna Abernathy at Broadway High School, and Michelle Kelty from JMU. She was with us previously. Brian Zugelder, I mentioned earlier. Mark Swaggart from East Rock, and Amy Thelk. And as we get more into what I'll say the weeds of this and the details and the planning, we will have more folks a part of that group. We'll have administrators from each of the 4 high schools, because whatever we decide this year in planning will also impact Spotswood and TA the following years. So we want them at the table. Then we want our teachers who will be involved in these classrooms. We want them to be a part of the conversation, as well as our supervisors, right? So we want Kim Tate and Bo Dickinson to be part of the conversations as well. So this group will kind of grow as we get more into it. So, but I wanted to kind of give you, again, just sort of an overview of where we are in the planning and what our thought process has been since December. It's changed a little bit. It looks differently. And give you an opportunity to ask questions of me or Brian.
Questions, board members? Or Dr. Scheichel?
Just a comment, if you watched some of the press conferences that Governor Youngkin's given, this is one of his key projects. And just a few days ago, he actually talked about these lab schools and said, these could possibly be ready by the fall of 2023, because now universities are connecting with school divisions and talking about what they may do when this application comes out. And one of the advantages of our project, and again, there was a lot of conversation about universities potentially being able to start up their lab schools where the local school division really doesn't have much say in it. And the advantage of our project is we've talked now for 2 years what direction this should go. The board had a chance to see that original plan that would have brought students to a central location. We didn't really see that as a good option, and so these conversations have continued. And then it just happens that by the time we have a plan that is actually feasible, that now there are $100 million statewide for these projects. And so when I hear Governor Youngkin say, some of these may actually happen fall 2023, our response is, yeah, we're ready. So when I talked to Dean Lesperance a few weeks ago, again, he said that when he talks about this enrichment, certainly the state is looking for projects that are actually ready to start talking specifics and what that may look like. So we're in a good position. Again, once the application comes out, we will bring it back to the board to make sure that the board approves of the application. But it's a great opportunity to do some of the things that we've talked about for years now. Cross-disciplinary, project-based learning for students. It will keep the students in our buildings. They'll attend the morning, actually in the lab school, so they'll have other classes in the afternoon. They can participate in extracurriculars and co-curricular organizations and all the other things that students may want to participate in. So it really brings that lab model into the buildings, and you start small and then you expand it as you can. So it's a much better approach than what we had previously talked about. And so from my perspective, this is definitely an exciting project. And again, once the specifics come out and the application is out, we'll certainly bring that to the board to formally approve that we will apply. And so in terms of cost, there will be teachers, but we already have teachers in those buildings who teach those students. So we don't, the workforce redesign really doesn't mean that now we'll need even more teachers, right? The whole plan is how do you structure a school with different staffing models, and so we don't anticipate then that as part of this project we'd have to hire more teachers. That's not the idea. It's the exact opposite of how you can bring in experts and also connections from the universities to make this successful. So long-term financially, that should not be a burden on the school division. And thanks to Larry and his team for doing all that work.
Would you show us the slide that talks about the various schools and give us an idea in terms of numbers of students that you envisioned to begin with?
So next fall would be year one, and we would envision starting at East Rockingham High School and Broadway High School, and 25 to 50 students. So we're not going to maybe necessarily tell kids they have to do this, right? But we're hoping after year one, kids will say, yes, I want that learning environment. And so the next year, what would happen is those freshmen then would become sophomores, right? So that number then grows from just, let's say it's 50. So then the next year you have those 50 sophomores plus 50 freshmen. So you're up to 100. And the same would be true at Broadway. And then Spotswood and TA would begin with a freshman class, right? So they would just start with a freshman class, again, 25 to 50 students. And then the third year, students will again continue to bring them in as freshmen, but then some of those students will not necessarily be part of going maybe to JMU and doing work or Blue Ridge Community College. They just may assimilate back into East Rockingham High School. So that's why those numbers maybe look a little differently. So, and that's a target that's really hard to say this is what it's going to be. So when we get to the 26, 27 school year, we would anticipate somewhere between 400 and 550 students to be involved in this initiative and what we're doing, not just in our schools, but what kids have moved on to maybe MTC to work, what kids are going to Blue Ridge and working on some concurrent courses, or JMU. So that's kind of what those numbers look like. Does that make sense?
Yes, you clarified it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So
Very
that
good.
would be about 10% of our high school student body.
Yes.
Okay.
We talked about this previously, and I think this is the thing that we talked about, and I asked why East Rock, and you replied because we have the space there. Now we've added Broadway. Do we have the space there? Because we're looking at a renovation, but that's not going to be done by next school year, right?
That's a great question, and I've actually, we had a conversation, Oscar and Brian and Mark and I met maybe 4 weeks ago now, and talked about the application, thinking it may be a little stronger if we have two schools coming out of the gates. I've had a conversation with Mrs. Abernathy, and she's been a part of this process since last year in August, and I think her comments to me is she believes she can accommodate and make room. But that is a good question. And we probably would move towards the smaller side of that scale, right? The 25, not the 50, because of the space. But you're right. Originally, in the first plan, when we talked, maybe we should do that in year 2, but she feels like we can make that happen.
And Ms. Lohr, it's also important to remember that one of the reasons for expanding Broadway High School isn't because of this current student population that's coming through. It is as the east side grows, and then it provides alignment if we redistrict some areas into the Broadway attendance area where there is currently elementary capacity and middle school capacity. At the high school, that capacity isn't there, and so expanding Broadway High School brings that entire attendance area into alignment. So that's also why we're expanding. That doesn't mean for 25 to 50 students that are already there that there wouldn't be space in a different setting.
And obviously, I go to Broadway. I've been in Broadway. It doesn't feel like it's crowded, but I really like the idea that we're going to maybe try some of this before we maybe get all the renovations set to help us figure out what the renovation needs to look like. So I think that's a great idea, too. So thank you for including Broadway.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to include him. I mean, Ms. Abernathy's been a wonderful part of this team and planning, for sure. And again, I think we started last August when we started having these conversations, and she was there at the table day one. So.
Any more questions?
I don't have a question. I'd just like to say that this is kind of like what Seneca said about luck, when preparation meets opportunity. And you all have been working diligently on getting ready for this point for a number of years. We've been attending conferences on project-based learning, on the curriculum integration, on just all the things that seem to be coming together. So that's really nice to see that so much work that you all have been doing is coming together now.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great opportunity for students.
Yeah, we hope so, for sure.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell just a quick story here. Years ago, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, Oscar and I were driving a school bus to Virginia Beach. And he was driving, I was riding shotgun, and he and I were starting to talk about some of these ideas. Like, wouldn't it be awesome if we could have a lab school where we could highlight what good teaching is really supposed to look like and how it can be different, right? And we just need a space. And so maybe, come to fruition and we can use somebody else's money, our money, the state money, to help do this, right? Thank you, Governor Youngkin, right?
Thank you, Dr. Shepard.
Yeah, and I do want to say just thanks to Oscar Scheichel, Dr. Scheichel, for his leadership on this and being a visionary, and also Dean Lesperance at JMU. Both of them have championed this, and I think the few meetings I've had, I think they've had many more, just talking about what could be. And so I want to thank them for their leadership and providing that vision.
Thank you. Anything else, folks? Okay. You want to move to the next item?
Yep, I'm
Dr.
ready
Shepard?
to move on. Yes, sir. So I get to, introduce our next speaker. I kind of called him out earlier, Dr. Brian Zugelder. He's an associate dean at the College of Education at JMU, and he's going to come and kind of talk to you guys a little bit about Grow Your Own program. But before he does, I just want to remind you guys of something. In the summer of 2019, with the support of this school board and our Board of Supervisors, Rockingham County Public Schools started their own Grow Your program. And we had, at that time, 10 of our parapros who already had a bachelor's degree began to take classes at JMU. Their first class was in the Hulvey Lab. And last summer, we hired 7 of those teachers as full-time SPED teachers, and they're beginning to enter year 2. And that's awesome. And you guys have continued to support it with the work of the Board of Supervisors, and we're so thankful for that. But I'm also thankful to say that the state has recognized that that was probably a good idea, Dr. McQuilkin, that we had, and they're going to kind of put some money towards this. And so Brian will talk to you a little bit about that.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight, and it was so exciting to hear the presentation on the lab school. I just love what you had to say about opportunity coming at the right time, and definitely just listening to the feedback of the community and JMU and the school division and Blue Ridge Community College. It really is coming together in such a beautiful way. So it's going to be really exciting. And I really do want to thank the principals at East Rock and Broadway for their enthusiasm as well behind this project, because we couldn't do it without them. But I'm not here to talk to you about lab school so much as I am the Grow Your Own program. I just want to tell you that we are feeling very blessed at JMU with the support that we are receiving from the state. So thanks to Governor Youngkin, we received $4.2 million to support a Grow Your Own program. You may have seen about this on WHSV. Sometimes they beat us to the punch. But anyway, they talked about how this Grow Your Own funding will help provide support for 100 new teachers in the Commonwealth. And I'm here to tell you how that impacts Rockingham County Public Schools. So this 100 new teachers, what we got the funding for, we received 1.9 million for year one, 2.3 almost million for year two, and those are recurring dollars to JMU in the budget. So we're very excited about that. For this first round of 100 teachers, it's our first cohort, which will take them through either 2 years or 4 years, depending on where they are, and then we'll start another cohort soon. But we have 25 students who recently graduated from high school, who were admitted to JMU, and who chose education as their interest. And so we were able to offer them a completely fully paid for scholarship for all 4 years of their experience at JMU. In addition to that, we can provide support to 75 paraprofessionals from across the Commonwealth. These are the school divisions that are represented based on what was in the state budget proposal. And so you can see that we're working with Harrisonburg, Rockingham, Warren, Frederick, Petersburg, and Portsmouth. And the idea is that we're working in school divisions that have high needs for teacher turnover, but also we are loyal to our partners right here in our hometown as well. So with that being said, I want to show you that of the 25 high school slots that we have funding for this year, 8 of those slots come from Rockingham County Public Schools. So you can look at the percentage of students from Rockingham County, very impressive. Those students are choosing early childhood, elementary ed, special ed, or middle grades. In addition to that, we have 75 paraprofessionals, and that number says 17 who will go to Blue Ridge Community College, who are right here in Rockingham County Public Schools, but we actually have 6 more. So we have 23 of your paraprofessionals who will be earning their licensure by earning a degree at JMU in education. Now, what this means financially, I crunched the numbers for you. So of the high school students that I mentioned, the 8 high school students, that actually is value added of $825,904 that we're pouring into Rockingham County high school students who recently graduated and are choosing education. In addition to that, the 23 paraprofessionals, that equates to $608,345 of support for them to go to Blue Ridge Community College, finish their AA, and then come to JMU. So a total of $1.43 million of that $4.2 million that we got that's going right back into Rockingham County Public Schools. One other thing that I would mention is the paraprofessionals who are in the Blue Ridge to JMU pathway are in our BIS program with concentrations in early childhood, special ed, and elementary ed. And that particular program is designed to provide them with a different kind of experience where we are mindful of the life experiences that they bring and also the life needs that they have. So that program is online. We offer it through distance education, but with lots of wraparound support from our faculty, mentors, advising at the community college level, and there might be some support for additional things like books and childcare. Any questions that you might have?
You said this year the 8 students from Rockingham, they were selected by JMU because they already had started that program. In the future, it's going to be our role, right, to work with you to identify our students, because I think it's another one of those opportunities with our program that we already have in place, our Teachers for Tomorrow, where students now, even during the high school years, are working at elementary schools, with a mentor and get that experience to identify local students that are great candidates to be future teachers. And I think that's part of the plan that they will then
yes, one of the benefits of getting the funding that we got is it's here. One of the challenges is it came a little bit later. So being able to work with you in recruiting students to be in that pipeline is something that we'll be able to do for the next academic year so that we can probably have about 13 more high school students in that pathway that we would work with you to select.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly. So we're taking high school students from Rockingham County, 8 of them, and then paraprofessionals as well, and we're giving them scholarships to become teachers. Do they have an obligation then to teach in Rockingham?
That is a good
Specifically?
question, yes. So this is a scholarship with a service commitment. So we are asking them to commit to 2 years of service back to your school division. If for some reason there's a challenge where there aren't any vacancies, then we are flexible with them where they could go to one of the other school divisions that were listed, because we don't want this to be a burden, an undue burden, but we definitely want to create this pathway so that we're helping Rockingham fill the teacher shortage.
Other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we will have the Special Education Advisory Committee report by Ms. Amber Ham, who chairs that group.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present the CZAC's 2021-2022 annual report tonight. I'm not going to read it. You guys can read it when you want to. I am just going to highlight some of the highlights of the committee. Currently, we have about 6 meetings a year. We have approximately 36 parents that are active members on the list, along with community members and school professionals. So we have grown in our numbers and representing the district. Currently, right now, special education students equal about 12% of the student population. So we're looking at about 1,450, give or take. These were numbers about a month ago. So in these meetings that we have 6 times a year, we talk about, different things. We talk about successes, that students are having and professionals that are having. And then we also talk about unmet needs or concerns that parents might have. And so I just want to go over and highlight some of those things tonight. As far as successes, and I'm going to start on page 3 if you're following. So RPS has some exceptional students or teachers and case managers that strive to do the best that they can. The Letters program, which has been talked about in the past, that was put district-wide in the elementary school, parents are seeing success in those, and that students are actually learning better with the Letters program. The recruitment and retention of special education students, this was actually just talked about, where JMU and RCPS is combining their efforts together to train and to have teachers trained to do that. Last year, I believe there was 7 I guess were hired in the schools, and so that collaboration still continues. Along with that effort and to advertise and recruit teachers, Dr. Bentley, Mr. Bryant, Ms. Shiflett, and Mrs. Donna Dotson continue to teach the foundations of exceptional education at JMU 1 night a week. And so that helps promote Rockingham County schools at JMU and hopefully recruit teachers from that program. In the annual budget that was presented and approved, a new sign language interpreter was approved, a new SPED assistant, an increase in occupational therapist, along with a certified occupational therapy assistant. So I really appreciate that because that helps the students in our schools. Rockingham County Schools participated in year 1 of the 5-year IPOP initiative, which is the inclusive placement opportunities for preschoolers, which will move us towards the inclusion and the full inclusion of early childhood special education and pre-K classrooms over the next few years. And that's one thing I will be talking about inclusion, how inclusion is really important for special education students. The other thing is Virginia IEP. When a parent has an IEP and we moved to a more computerized, a parent portal last year, where parents can actually see the IEP, they can look at it anytime. So it's not a paper document that we always have to have. We can also sign the documents, which has been helpful. This year, they added the document translation feature, which provides 9 languages that IEP documents can be now translated into the parent's native language. And so that helps decrease the barrier for some parents to be involved in IEPs. The next thing is JLURC, which is the Joint Legislation Audit and Review Commission. Under recommendation number 13, address the need for special services for non-academic and extracurricular activities. And so basically this is giving the opportunities this year that RCPS has done to help reduce the gaps of special needs students participating in activities. Some of these activities include they hired assistants to help students participate in after-school activities. Students were given the opportunity to participate in school plays. They participated and held the unified basketball game, which returned after COVID, so they were really excited about that. And in your report, you can see some pictures of that. And that was held at Turner Ashby High School. The Young Life Capernaum Prom, this is a prom for students with special needs, was held. There were 60 students with and without disabilities. And so again, including kids with disabilities and non-disabilities, and something that they might not have participated in. In John Whalen, there was a hearing impaired pre-K student that was partially integrated into the classroom with his peers. My son was also in pre-K, and so I got to see and witness actually that experience firsthand. And the including non-disabled peers and actually teaching them sign language and actually seeing my son come home and teach it to us, and then we could actually, communicate with the student was awesome. It was a great experience for me to see, and also for my son to actually have that experience. And then this year we also did the first CZAC family picnic. So a lot of our meetings are business. We talk about different things, but this time we decided to get together with families and just talk, and for the kids to hang out instead of parents just talking. And so that was a pretty good success with about 35 people attending. Now we move into kind of the concerns and some unmet needs that parents have brought up at CZAC meetings. The lack of applicants. So sometimes, like has been said in the last 2 presentations, sometimes there's a lack of professionals, a lack of applicants to fill the needs that we need to serve special education students. More communication between the parents and the schools. And this is something that every year the state does a performance report. And for the parent involvement, measure the percentage of parents who report their child's school facilitated parent involvement as a means of improving services and results for children with disabilities. The last time it was reported, we were 48%. The state target is greater or equal to 78%. And so that is something that we are trying to work with the parents to figure out what those numbers are and why those were down so much that year. The next one is communication among school staff. A lot of times the parents meet with the teachers, they meet with administrators, but the custodians don't know, the bus drivers don't know. There's other people in the school that interact with the students, and they don't know that this child has a disability. And there actually has been somewhat of a paradigm shift. In the past, parents, oh, don't tell, I don't want anybody to know my child has a disability. There actually has been a shift in our meetings of parents saying, we want people to know because we want people to actually serve the needs of our kids. And so, communicating with not just, the teachers, but also other staff that are going to be integrated, cafeteria workers, all the people in the school, let them know about the students. And that also actually creates inclusion. And so that if someone's walking down the hallway, someone will be like, oh, okay, this person might need a little more of assistance here. Increase resources for staff to effectively implement the IEP as written and meet the needs of students. And so this goes to basically sometimes there might be supplies, that there's a limited budget. Sometimes a case manager might have a case that is particularly hard one year where not just one teacher can help, that they might need a little more assistance. And so we've seen that where sometimes, you know, the demands of the IEPs of the students that are on their case load, it's almost hard and sometimes impossible to fulfill those needs with one staff. The other thing is the loss of instruction time due to transportation. Some students get picked up early or they get dropped off later because of special transportation, so they lose the instruction time. The other thing is expand letters program. So we talked about success being, you know, a benefit, but also middle school and high school students that got into elementary school are now not going to receive it. I know that is a plan in the future to expand that program. However, those students currently in middle school and high school are not receiving those services with letters. Or if they are, it's very limited. More training needed to be provided to school administrators, teachers, and parents on topics related to special education. Special education law that changes. Sometimes people don't understand it. This is not just a Rockingham County thing. There was the JLARC study. It did identify that, you know, more administrators and teachers actually need to know more about special education law and how it applies to students and the accommodations that could be given to students with those disabilities. More services during the summer needed to offer to students with special needs to aid in the reducing the regression of students. Students struggle with special needs. They struggle to just gain sometimes what other students gain, and then they quickly lose it. So just more assistance during the summer to help with that. Grade level promotion and promotions to middle school and high school. And so a lot of times, you know, in elementary school, there's a lot of supports, the counseling, you know, the emotional support, but has been said to parents, well, now they're in middle school, and this is what we expect of middle schools. Well, now they're in high school, and this is what we expect of a high school, or how are you going to, how are they going to live independently? You know, some of the students that we serve aren't going to live independently, and they are developmentally different. And, you know, and so just sharing and increasing the knowledge that just because they increase their chronological age, and now they're 16 or now they're 17, they actually emotionally and developmentally might be a pre-K or might be a second grader. And so you can't expect the same thing from students with special needs as you do from other non-disabled peers. And the next thing is funding increase for special needs students to access specialized and therapeutic equipment and school improvements so that they can participate in activities like their non-disabled peers to develop learning environments both inside and out. And so this is the things like, you know, equipment outside. You know, during COVID, and I don't know the numbers, but my question would be, how many handicap picnic tables were bought? You know, there was money bought for, you know, people to have outside space for lunches, but how many handicap picnic tables were bought? You know, people with wheelchairs or with, you know, disability to walk, do they have a level around to walk and be outside and play? Or when they do outside, let's go outside and everybody, we're going to do an outside and learning environment today. You know, do they have the ability to do that? Sometimes there's just not space. Sometimes, you know, students have a runaway risk, and they might need fences, you know, just so that they can actually have fresh air, like their students. At one point, there was an example of this, you know, in the past, that there were only lights on the boys' baseball field, and recently funding was provided for lights to be put on the softball field for females. This was a movement to make things fair to both females and males who played ball, and hope the district can recognize that there are improvements that need to be made to make indoor and outdoor educational space equal and fair to all students to have the same opportunity. One thing that gives me hope is Peakview Elementary School the principal, they are actually in the process of trying to raise funds to create an outdoor space. They have several specialized programs, and anything the district can do to support them in funding or getting grants, that is going to be an excellent space for those students, and something that I feel they deserve. You know, they deserve to be able to go outside. You know, it also is an environment that will help, you know, the emotional learning also, the emotional health, to be outside. The next thing is more programs and activities for special needs students that promote inclusion and address needs for students both academically and socially. And so we talked about different things like plays and hiring assistants, you know, for after school, but other things like after school programs to teach sign language and social skills to special needs students and their peers, to integrate that, because sometimes during the day, the school day, it's just not possible. Creating a more buddy system to help students learn from their peers, and promote opportunities for special needs students to have roles in plays, sports, bands, and et cetera. Just, you know, creating more opportunities for that. So in conclusion with the report, at Spotswood High School, 2 peer mentors, Abby Richardson and Clarissa Gibson, wrote a song and created a video dedicated to Mr. Dobson's multiple disabilities class at Spotswood High School. These mentors have worked with these students and have grown to understand them with love, empathy, and compassion. And I would like to share this video with you tonight.
We made a video! But not just a video. So we wrote a song, and it's dedicated to Dotson's class. We love you guys! A lot. I love you guys too!
You are strong, you are enough, nothing knocks you down, but if it does, you get right back up. People may tell you to hide, but no matter what, let your light shine, let it shine so bright. I love you as you are, you don't need anything less or anything more. What I love about you is your heart. Love you as you are. You don't need anything less or anything more. What I love about you is your heart. Love you as you are. 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 Make me smile every day. See the world in the most beautiful way, most beautiful way. We keep dancing every day. I love your joy that you can't contain. Oh, the joy you can't contain. I love you as you are. You don't need anything less or anything more. What I love about you is your heart. Love you as you are. You don't need anything less or anything more. What I love about you is your heart. I love you as you are. 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 You're unique and you are strong. You're the joy of my day, and you belong. Never change, just be you. Keep on loving in a beautiful way too. You're unique and you are strong. You're the joy of my day, and you belong. Never change, just be you.
Through watch. Through watching the video, you can see that Abby's and Carissa's heart is pure. Their love is strong and their character shines. The original song expresses their feelings as it says, "Love you as you are." You have accepted these students as they are, knowing that they have limitations and that they might not reach the developmental milestones like their peers or themselves. But their love still shines. Abby's and Clarissa's song describes these students as unique, strong. You are enough, and you do not mean anything less. There is a lot of wisdom in accepting individuals for who they are and not for someone we wish they could be, celebrating their differences and making an inclusive school environment instead of trying to change who they are and exclude them. When educators in school work with special needs students, they are supposed to help them be successful well beyond graduation by creating and accomplishing goals and giving them services and accommodations to be the best they can. We see where some schools excel, but we have also seen some situations there have been unmet needs. This video shows the true character, and I can only hope that this becomes contagious and spreads throughout Rockingham County schools and beyond. It is an example of how schools, students, parents, community members, and educators should view special education students to love you as you are and create an inclusive educational setting to meet the needs of the students. I present the 2021-2022 CZAC annual report highlighting some successes and concerns and unmet needs that CZAC has seen in hopes that this report is an avenue for change and not a report that is filed away. I hope that this report is a catalyst to increase understanding and dialogue in the efforts to make positive change to help the special education students get the services they need to succeed and be the best they can be within Rockingham County Public Schools. Do you guys have any questions?
Questions? Thank you so much for the report. Certainly, the love you as you are applies to those kids with special needs, but as I think you alluded to, it needs to become a larger mantra for those of us who profess to be adults. And it used to be such a simple thing, but it doesn't seem quite so simple anymore.
Thank you for bringing this to us. I, for one, am truly inspired, and I'm gonna call you out, Mr. Fitzgerald. Can we find some ways in our CTE classes? I know that there's a class at Broadway that's incorporating the, I'm sorry, is it level 3 special ed class? The intensive special ed children into a mainstream class.
I think it's level 2.
Is it level 2? I'm sorry. I get the levels messed up. I'm
Level
so sorry.
2 is 50% or more, and level 1 is 50% or 49% or less.
Okay, you're going to have to explain that to me again later. But if we can find some ways to do this, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Also want to say thank you. This mic's dead, so thank you for inviting me to the SEAC meetings. I can't always attend, but the ones that I've been to, I really appreciate the open conversation. Right? So it's not educators and parents of students with disabilities saying this is what you need to do different. It's always a really good conversation around what we are doing well as a school division and where we need to improve, and I think the report reflects that. And so I really appreciate the tone in those meetings and the topics, because it's really honest, right? We're not, nobody is just being nice in the meeting just to be nice. There's a really respectful dialogue that goes on, but no one is afraid to also, point to those hard topics, that we need to get the areas where we need to improve, but also willing to celebrate the areas where there's success. So I really appreciate that. And that's, you are leading that effort, and so I really appreciate your work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, policy revisions, Ms. Marcy Williams.
Good evening, Chairman Breeden, school board members, and Dr. Scheichel. While I'm here to do policy, I just have to say that was an awesome presentation. Many of those students in that video, because we had the multidisability program at Peakview, were there, and it was good to see them. Not to mention that Abby and Krissa were two Peakview students as well, and speaking about growing your own, they have been involved in that program since they were in elementary school, being mentors to some of those students. So keep those names in mind when we continue to grow our own special ed teachers moving forward. So I don't know, I was a little emotional for a minute. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to stand up here at this mic. But mine is very simple this evening. I am just coming to you with with one policy for your information, and it's policy IGAJ. It has to do with driver's education program, and we are asking that it be moved from a Rockingham County policy to a VSBA policy that was proposed in May. The area of change here, you'll notice, will be a 90-minute course that will be offered to parents. And as I spoke with Sheldon today, Mr. Rice, and he said they're starting to think about this in hopes of your approval of this policy and what that might look like. It would offer parents an evening to come in and view this 90-minute program. While it's not mandatory in our region right now, it is optional, and it is something that they're in favor of offering to the parents as well. So if you have further questions as you're looking through it, you can get those to me, and I can share those out with Sheldon, or you can ask him directly for more information if you need that. Okay. Any questions this evening?
Do have a question about this policy. If you read down into it, it sounds like we as a school division are going to start offering behind the wheel classes, and I don't believe that's the case. Is there a way we can tweak this so it's clear to parents that we're not
I believe,
that?
and if Mr. Shiflett's able to join me too, my understanding is it gives us the option to do that. It doesn't say that we're expected to do that.
Yeah. I think, again, the decision not to offer behind the wheel, that's a school division decision. It doesn't mean that because the policy says there would be fees that the board can establish if there is a behind the wheel program, that we have to offer it, as we might have a policy on, advanced placement courses that doesn't obligate us to have those courses. So I think, again, the choice can be certainly to eliminate that, and if the board decides, or if the school division decides to have behind the wheel again, that you then change that to the policy. But having it in there simply aligns it with VSBA policy, and so if we ever decide to have behind the wheel again, it's there. This does not mean that behind the wheel has to be offered. It's simply not a course that's available for students to register for.
Concern just is, as a parent, if you read the policy, you're like, oh, and the new parent that hasn't had a child behind the wheel yet, and had behind the wheel as a student in Rockingham, they don't completely understand. So maybe we just cover that in the 90-minute parent meeting. But just, I want to make sure that parents understand that they have to go out and find a private. And I want to make sure the private people understand that we're not taking it over and don't go out of business, because that would be bad. Those are just my concerns about it.
If there is the thought about removing it, it would have to go back to a Rockingham County policy. That's fine. If we wanted to tweak it any, we either accept it as it is or take it back to a Rockingham County policy. The piece that, again, the 90-minute presentation for parents was the piece that was of interest that while we were looking to their policy as well.
And if we just add something into that, indicating that we don't offer that service, that makes me happy.
Other questions, comments? Thank you, Ms. Williams. That concludes our information items this evening. We'll move to number 7 on our agenda, which is other business school board questions. I'll begin with Mr. Falk.
Dr. Scheichel, could you update us a little bit on efforts to recruit school bus drivers and some of the ideas that we're going over? I noticed my wife and I just traveled to Raleigh, North Carolina, and I noticed we went through the country to get there, rural areas, and everywhere there was a public school, there was a bus sitting in front of it with a big sign on that said bus drivers needed.
If you If you drive by the bus garage, you'll see that sign here as well. Bus driver shortage is really nationwide, right? It's again, it's one of those areas where school divisions make every effort to recruit and retain school bus drivers. We pay for the training. One of the challenges is that, you know, if someone signs up to be trained as a bus driver, that results in them having their CDL. As a school division, it's almost impossible to compete with what private industry pays for someone who has their CDL. One of the things that we've done that not every school district does is that bus drivers, even though they only work a limited number of hours, they do qualify for full-time benefits. And Ms. Mast and I recently talked about, you know, one of the approaches that we will take to making it interesting to people who have retired, and that is to say that if someone, for example, wants to drive part-time, so they just want to drive the morning route, or they just want to drive the afternoon route, that Rockingham County Schools would still pay the employer portion of the health insurance. And so benefits are a big deal when it comes to recruiting. Again, not every school division offers those. It's difficult to do this with the hourly pay because, again, the number of hours that bus drivers actually drive is fairly limited. And so even if you raised the hourly pay by 50%, and some school divisions have tried, you know, increasing hourly pay, it typically doesn't result in many more applicants because of the limited number of hours. You know, in the past, when we talked about staggered start times, you know, there would be opportunities for people to drive all day, and you can offer full-time contracts that might attract new people. The transportation department is frequently, you know, on the air on WHSV or on the radio talking about our needs. But I think, again, addressing it through benefits to, you know, even someone who is a retired teacher but has their CDL, that might be interesting for them, you know, to drive half the route. And so we're going to continue to do that. We are short, certainly, a number of bus drivers, and that effort's, as you saw on your drive to Raleigh, that you see that everywhere. And again, so what it results in is, of course, longer routes and more double runs. But whenever we can, we try to figure out ways to make it appealing to people to drive those routes.
Dr. McQuilkin.
I would just like to thank everyone who spoke from the podium this evening. It was a very enlightening meeting, and we thank all the speakers. And I'm wishing everyone a wonderful 2022-23 school year once again.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr.
The big question, are we ready? School starts in, like not tomorrow, but the next day. And thank you to everybody who made starting on Wednesday this year possible. Super happy this morning that when I woke up, I didn't have to get my kid ready for school. So thank you for that. But are we ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Ready for an amazingly great school year?
The kids are going to be here on Wednesday, then it's school, and it's going to be exciting to have them all back. Yeah, and starting on a Monday really was more of a one-time thing. So.
We have started on Tuesday,
yeah.
So thank you for Wednesday, and thank you to everybody who's worked very hard. Thank you to all of our teachers, bus drivers, everybody getting ready, the custodians, the cafeteria staff, to know that they'll have warm meals as soon as they get back to school, a wonderful building to greet them. Thank you to everyone. And the parents for getting those kids ready, and get a good night's rest tomorrow night, because it starts strong on Wednesday. Thank you.
Dr. Scheichel?
Yeah, we're ready. Looking again, everyone, you can see it in the buildings. The excitement is there. Everyone's ready to get those kids back so we can really do what we're here to do, and that is to educate the children in the community, and amazing staff all across the board. So yeah, can't wait for Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm sure everybody in this room has an occasion at the dinner table to talk about current events and what's going on in the world, and oftentimes that discussion will center around the lack of civility in our public dialogue. And when I do have an opportunity to opine on that, one of the things that I talk about that I think has been of the greatest one of the greatest detriments to our civic dialogue has been social media. And I think that it is quite possible for any individual to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof behind a computer screen. And I have not been perfect in my execution of social media, but I have made a commitment several months ago not to engage in favor of face-to-face discussion when at all possible. I have been called communist, socialist, every kind of ist you can think of in the past. Most troubling, my faith, my relationship to God has been questioned, and I've just chosen not to engage in that. But occasionally people will still send me snapshots of things that they feel that it's important that I know for some reason. And there was some what appears to be misinformation surrounding what we're about to do next, and that's to enter into closed meetings. So I just wanted to speak just a moment to that. The reasons that we as a board, or the Board of Supervisors or anyone else, can enter into a closed meeting outside of public view, they're very limited and they're specific. And so if you hear the motion that is made at each meeting, it will reference Virginia code and why we're going into closed meeting. And when we're there, that's all we can talk about. And we have to make a motion, first to come out of closed meeting, and secondly to certify that we only talked about the things that were mentioned in the motion. And I have that, every board member has that information prior to the meeting. And there is, if you go on the Rockingham County website, there is public comment, and then there is executive content, and that is information that board members need to see. And in that will be the proposed motion to enter closed meeting, which will itemize those things. It is incumbent upon me as a board member to know what those things are. And if I have issue with any of them, to bring it to the attention of the chairperson and the superintendent. Good case in point, back a couple of meetings ago, we were scheduled to have a legal review of the name policy as it has become known that Mr. Cross has proposed. And he was not going to be able to be present, so I called him and said, I think we ought to postpone that until you're able to be here to hear it. And so that item was taken off. So we all get that information together. It comes to us from the board clerk, and there is no reason that any board member should not know what's going to be discussed. Now, we are not allowed, and we've all taken this quite literally, not allowed to talk about what we discussed in that meeting. I can't go home and tell my wife about it, and because it often deals with sensitive matters. So I just wanted to kind of address that, because I had a sense that there may have been an impression left that maybe I, as a board member or someone else, did not have access to what the topics were going to be. And so I just thought I would share that with the listening and the audience present. So thank you all very much for being patient with us this evening. We do have reasons to enter into closed meeting, and I will entertain a motion in that regard.
And I'll read that motion now that's in our executive content. I move that the board enter a closed meeting to discuss and consider the following pursuant to provisions of Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711. A1, personnel, specific public officers, appointees, or employees for the purpose of considering such individuals' assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, salary, or resignation, and A2, one or more particular students specifically related to discipline and requests regarding compulsory school attendance based on religious beliefs that would involve disclosure of information contained in a scholastic record concerning a student.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. McQuilkin. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is 4-0. Thank you. We'll take about a 5-minute recess, and then we will convene and close the meeting.